Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. I know I am 3 minutes late, but I'm still going to give myself one of those, because my setup when I do my podcast right, kind of irked me a little bit. And, I do experiment on occasion, but it just seems in those moments when I try something new, it doesn't work out for me. So when something does work out for me, I am pleased with myself. I've used this camera before. I gave it a full, oh my goodness, I think I gave it a full week. And during that week, I had nothing but problems. But I wasn't just experimenting with the camera, I was experimenting with the microphone and with setups and with tripods. And I tried a whole bunch of things, right? And it only takes one thing to ruin everything. So I thought maybe I would try this camera again, but not try it with any of well, I did do the new setup. I did move the desk and right. But other than that, I didn't do anything except spend a little time in my settings and actually playing with things. And I love playing inside my computer. I have a lot of trust that I'm not going to blow things up, and only because I came pretty close to blowing it up when I gave my computer, right, it was almost heading out the door because I could not get an editing program to work on my laptop, and I was so frustrated and I thought it was so stupid, and all it was one download and it was resolved. But at any moment I could have quit on it, right? I could have quit on my brand. I wouldn't have done it. I would have adapted and conquered and figured something out. But it is in our failures. It's in the things that we do over and over again, and it just doesn't work for us, right? And we think, oh my goodness, the world's conspiring against me. I'm not even gonna try anymore. And I know that game myself because I played that game for decades. I look at it now as a game. In the moment it's detrimental, but we don't look at ourselves as the solution, right? How can we look at ourselves as a solution? We like to think maybe, but we know we don't, because we don't usually give ourselves any consideration at all, and we are always just digging our own holes and making the problems worse lots of times. I do like to sit and listen to myself, right? In contemplation when I'm doing the housework. I don't even have any music on or anything. I'm just doing what I'm doing, but spending that time with myself into chewing down different topics. Oh my goodness, did I have changing the subject? Sometimes I trail off these branches, and it takes a second for me to come back to the main branch, right? Because a lot of what I do is for my own well-being, and for future souls that might be going down similar routes in their life, or having similar problems, or grew up in dynamic families like me. And to understand that I can put myself in other people's shoes in relation to my own experiences. And when I do that, I go, right, because it takes all kinds to make the world, and I just don't want to be for one group, because I understand that one group is still split off, right? I meet people with similar ideas to myself every once in a while, sometimes in person, sometimes it's through the content that I take in, or the people that get my curiosity going, and for no reason at all I find myself involved in their stories. So I tend to be drawn to the vlog style because I think for myself it's a trust thing, right? Because we don't just give our hearts freely. We don't normally, right off the hop. And I've learned this because I used to be that way, right? Trust everybody until, right, they cross the line. But now I have boundaries. And so I find myself a little bit over conscious of that, right? Over protective of myself. And I'm not going to apologize for that, only in the fact that maybe I apologized that I didn't come to the table a little bit sooner. But I have to remember that, sometimes I go too far down those side branches, and they're in topics that, people are just, they're not taking them into consideration. And if there are people out there taking these things into consideration, they're so far and few behind at this moment, right? But it will be a different story generations down the road. And wouldn't it be wonderful to say that, that maybe we stepped into these ideas first? I mean, we're just walking into this age of AI learning. We have no idea where it's going to take us, and we can fight it, or we can settle into it. And that's the idea. You have to settle into it, because if you can't settle into it, that strain and that stress and that worry and that fright and that confusion, right, will take us down. And like I said, I kind of pay attention, and I love the vlog styles where I get to meet people more on a personal basis. I have the straightforward, here's the lesson, right? And this is what you get, and I can appreciate that too, because we all want to have our privacy, right? We're creating the best lives for ourselves as we possibly can, but we also understand that it's about what our contribution is in that, right? So we should all be contributing to something else. If there's nothing that I know that one thing, but so many people don't recognize that, right? And so we beat ourselves up as to, uh, well, why we don't get the good things in life, and others do. Why we wake up to ideas so late in life, like myself. Yeah, I was in my late 50s before I woke up to any of these ideas. And I can't imagine what life would have been like for me if I had woken up to some of these ideas, like say in high school. Like, would I have applied myself in the studies? I think I would have. I think I would have definitely given it a fair shot and gone into the fields that, I'm passionate about in my hobbyist aspects of my life, right? These unfulfilled goals, these dreams, these wishes, these ambitions that I would have loved to have chased down. But as I grew up, I came to the mindset that that was not a possibility for me when it very much was, right? And we all, right? We all step into those, I call them, like um, potholes, right? Every once in a while you hit that pothole in life when we get these lessons, but it's about paying attention to the lessons, right? My life would have looked very different in this moment if I had, right, applied myself in school. I would have gone through archaeology. I would have pursued that. But sometimes in that chameleon way of life, those changes that we all step our foot in and test the waters in, they're all opportunities to make a different choice. And I am quite confident that I made a lot of different choices, a lot of them out of fear, a lot of them out of insecurity, a lot of them out of shame, believe it or not, because this is the way that I felt about myself, and it's what got me to that point where I felt like I didn't have any value, anything to bring to the table, not realizing, right, that I had those choices. I could have made choices despite, and I did. I think, it's also part of the reason why I was invited to the table, that despite those obstacles, that somehow I found my way, right? Better late than never, 100%. Because if for nothing else, right? I show up here for myself, but I have to take into consideration that, other people are coming in too, and I want to keep it light. I understand, right? We are working in emotions and better understanding ourselves and better understanding those other parts of us, right? That we don't understand. And that's the truth. It's all about untangling all those wires. It's not about cutting them out and disposing them, because there are uses for everything, right? You just don't go in and cut out the appendix for no reason at all, because it just seems like a useless organ. Is that one of the organs that's useless, the appendix? Maybe it's the spleen. It's one of, we got lots of these organs that we don't even know, because they're genetically so set back in our ancestries, like our tailbone, right? We've lost our tail. We don't have that need for that tailbone, but it's there, right? And yeah, so it's about appreciating it is an evolution, that we're going to stumble and fall, but it's in those choices that we make. And I think in the end game that there is a destination for us, even if we are not being it's not being revealed to us, right? But it's because we are not. I was in a live show this afternoon. It's what we were talking the diversity. We were talking about the diversity. How important it is for a species to evolve. Every animal in this world is at a stage in evolution where at one point that choice was made in a different choice, and they broke off, and we're all like 99.2% all the same DNA with all the animals and stuff. So you have to appreciate that there's a lot of stuff about us that, right, we're not going to cut it out, we're not going to dispose of it because we think it's not ours, right? It doesn't belong to us. It doesn't have a use, right? Might not even just be discovered yet. And then to find out that, right, we possibly cut out something that we needed, right? That we lost an opportunity to make a little bit of movement for ourselves or caused us some problems in the end. Okay, I'm going a little bit down those side branches. Hello. Nice to see you, Earl. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. We were just going on a little bit about, our choices and, how we're not really taking responsibility for the choices that we make. And in the end game, there's an expected destination. What that is, I don't know, but I think it's in those choices that we make that determines whether or not we're going to make it there, right? And I was saying, I think it's the choices that I've made over the course of my life, whether it was by intent or just an accidental step into encounter, experience, conversation, that somehow it brings me to this point where I'm here, right? So I'm going to make the very best use of that as I possibly can, right? It's part of our childhood sometimes that we end up with makeups that kind of uh, create the people that we are. And it's not like it's a ungenuine person, but it's a person that we were meant to experience. But because of the life we live, the conversations, the experiences, and the experimentation choices that we make, that we end up a little bit different, right? And for me, I would like to see, it get to the point where I could see, and not just I can see, but like everybody else, that longing to be valued and to be able to see that value is manifested in some way, if that makes any sense. It comes from childhood trauma quite often. When you grow up and you don't feel your value, then sometimes we chase that, right? Little boys chase the success, the little girls chase the Cinderella weddings and the mansions and the vacations, right? We 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 wish for these things, but we don't necessarily make the choices that will help us along into achieving these things. And I was that person for a very, very long time. Grateful for a few lessons around my belt, those tools that I picked up along the way. But that's the idea. I understand that sometimes I trail off and I go down these side branches that maybe I'm not even ready to go down, but because I'm so curious, right? Because I find what I'm doing super interesting, and also because I know it'll help. Know it will help. But the only way that I can get anybody else to know that it helps is to be the evidence in that myself, right? And appreciate, that my hobbies and what I'm working on, I work in emotions, right? But that my love for history and my love for working in the emotions, that they work so well together, even the mother nature, that it just all ties in, and it just seems that they are partners, right? They are partners in the creation of the best Cindy I can be. Oh my goodness, where did that go tonight? I have no idea. But what I do know is I've switched everything up a little bit. I'm kind of pleased with my desk. I feel better a little bit. The glare isn't so bad as it was with the lighting. It's still kind of bad, right? But it's not as bad as it was. And I like that I still can see outside my big picture window, actually possibly a little bit better. So that was a big concern for me. And I like a fresh look in my house, and everything is fresh, and not only just looks fresh, but it is fresh because everything's been scrubbed down and dusted. I'm all ready for winter. I've got a few projects under the go. And I hope everybody is making some good choices. Could I be making some better choices? Could you be making some better choices? we all we all could, but we got to understand, right? We got to be able to smile through that, and beating ourselves up and giving ourselves heck, right, is not going to do us any good, right? You want to enjoy the views, but how can you enjoy the views if you're just so bothered by even making that movement to start with? That's why I'm a big believer in baby steps. I do them myself because for that exact reason, I don't want to be freaked out. I want to be able to walk in comfortably, confidently, and knowledgeably. Is that a word? Knowledgeably? It's going to have to be tonight. That's just the mood that I'm in. Thank you, Earl, for popping in. I really appreciate that you came in tonight. And for those of you who pop in, right, later on, put your feet up. I hope your week is off to a good start, right? For lots of people, we're just getting into our week. But we don't know how the end of that week is going to look when it comes to what we accomplish in all aspects of our life. We can have a set plan for how we want it to be, but how are we going to feel when we've set these goals and we can't meet that challenge, right? Are we going to beat ourselves up? Are we going to appreciate, right? At least we gave it a shot. At least we tried, and we're going to just try again, right? And that's what it's all about. Just keep stumbling over ourselves until we can get whatever thing is tripping us out, up, down, packed, and then next. Okay, you guys, you know the score, 54 powerful words. I'm just going to pull one card, one word. We're just going to go into it for a couple of minutes. It's the first thing always that comes to my mind, whatever that is. Hopefully, it's a different word. We have been getting a few words lately consistently, and there are cards in here I haven't even pulled yet. There are words here I haven't even pulled yet. So it makes me curious, right? Okay, you guys, let's see if we pull that word community tonight. You can see I'm giving it a good shuffle. Okay, let's just pull a card. This is it. Sure, I just have one. Here it is. Right? You guys, tell me there's not something in that. That is at least the fifth time in the past month that I have pulled the word community. And just before I pulled that card, I said, any word except for community. And look at what we got, you guys. This is absolutely crazy. Community is coming, right? I feel I have a community. I feel I have company in what I do, and I have people who appreciate some of those funky ideas, right? And they might be too funky for you today, but tomorrow it might be a different story, right? Tomorrow I might hit that mark and you might reconsider and go over that funky story that you heard the day before, and it might not sound so funky in the end. Community offers up the opportunity or the sense of belonging. Community offers up a sense of belonging. And doesn't it? Isn't it amazing? The first thing that comes to my mind is the world community, right? That we have been doing so good, even in the past 50 years, right? We can look at all the terrible things that have been going on the past 50 years. So we're going back 50 years. So you're looking at the 70s, right? The 70s up until now. Wow. It has only been getting better and better. I know a lot of that has been in innovation, in science, and in technology. But if you look at different categories in the world, like when you look at oil, and when you look at prospecting, and you look at distribution, right? When it comes to shipping and railway, it's all changed so much, right? And we are on an uphill trend. But I always say, sometimes you gotta make a mess to clean a mess. So we're always going to be in messes, because as soon as we clean one up, we're moving to the next room and we're making a mess again, right? So it's going to take a while. It might take decades, it might take generations, right? But I think eventually we are going to become a community. Each generation does something to get us closer to being less aggressive, a less tolerant, right? We don't like things that are different. We like things to stay the same, but we like the human to be the same too. And we will naturally, it's just the nature to attack what is not like ourselves, but we have to understand the only thing different is our skin color. We are this close, right, to each other now. We're not thousands and thousands and thousands of kilometers away. We are this close. And there will be choices and there will be changes that will make it so that we are more assimilated, amalgamated, right? But not just in one culture's or one familial traditional idea, dictatorship, my way or the highway ideas, but as a majority to make decisions for the way we'd like to see the world go. Now, does that mean that's the way the world's going to go? No, because I believe for myself that there is a directive, there is a destination where we're supposed to meet, but we're not supposed to know the details of that. We're just supposed to allow ourselves to be pulled into that. So it helps me to accept why I didn't wake up to any of these ideas until well into my 50s, right? I don't beat myself up because I didn't come to the table sooner, right? I just pull up my britches, dust off my knees, right? And just dig in, trusting, right? And, it's in that partnership with myself, and I get what I give, and I appreciate that maybe I might not have been a very good steward to myself, but I can tell you right? That through those experiences and those butting heads and bumping into walls and tripping up and the wrenches being thrown into my engine, right? Those other parts of me got me through it, right? Better late than never. Those other parts of me, right? Community. It's appreciating that I can start with myself and, right? Team Cindy, right? In this lifetime, but in the next lifetime might be Team Joe or Team Eugene or Amanda, right? But it's in that relationship that I have with those other parts of me right now that maybe we can make a little bit of movement so that the next time around I might not be dealing with those obstacles and those wrenches and trip ups and hiccups and failures, right? And in the meantime, just keep practicing my craft, believing and trusting, right? That one way or another, I'll get there. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. We'll see you tomorrow.